Welcome back to Integrate This. We are continuing our short series on AI note-taking, and Jeremy is going to take it away with a focus on NotebookLM, which seems really interesting. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so NotebookLM, really what it is, it's a Google product. It's still in its experimental stage, so it is definitely something that is evolving, and Google, I'm sure, is going to be finding ways to make it even more applicable to a lot more different people. And I do think that there's a lot of possibilities here, especially in an educational setting, to use NotebookLM for several different purposes. And so we're going to take a dive into what NotebookLM has to offer. And you could see here when you come to this page that NotebookLM shows up here, and you are going to sign into it. When you click on the Try NotebookLM, it will bring you to, if you're not signed in with your Google account, because it's a Google product, you're gonna sign in with your Google credentials, right? And if you're not signed into it, it will ask you to sign in using those credentials, which would be where you would find them in a normal Google product anyway. So I already have this logged in as myself, so that's why you see my little icon up there. And when you get to this landing page, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot here, but there's a lot of powerful things that it will do. I want to get back to showing you, though, this homepage to begin with, because it shows you a little bit about some of the things that are possible with NotebookLM. They describe it as being an AI research assistant, which is definitely true. You're going to see some instances where I've done that. It has a spot which, when we open up a notebook, will allow you to upload a lot of different types of sources that you may have, including links to YouTube videos. It could be links to websites. It could be Google Docs or Google Slides that you have. Different audio or other video files can also be added into it. And it's going to be a place then that you not only can upload your sources to, but it can help you organize them as well. Then once they are imported, it's going to be able to give you a summary or an insight into many of the different types of sources that you have uploaded. And you'll see some of those summaries. You can also then, once you have your sources added to it, be able to ask their AI chatbot to be able to do certain tasks for you. Could be summarizing, could be analyzing, maybe to synthesize a couple of your different sources together. And one of the new features that I really like, which I'm going to demonstrate for you too, is this audio overview, which will take some of your notes that you have and basically like create a podcast episode for you that goes along with what was available in the notes that you had. And I know one of the things that David and I have been focusing on with several different products that we take a look at are some of the privacy and student data privacy concerns that you should be made aware of. And as a Google product, it does comply with other Google products to be able to use it, and they're not using the data, your personal data, to help to train it. But like with other AI sources, it's only as good as the information that you put into it, right? So if you're putting in personally identifiable information, realize that you do leave the door open for some of that stuff to come back at you. So be considerate about that with the types of stuff that you choose to add into it. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to my kind of notebooks that I've created. And you can see that I've started several different ones. There are some that come with it as examples. And if you want a very detailed description of all of the things that are possible with NotebookLM, check out this introduction one that comes with it. I didn't create that one. It's just right there. In fact, I even tried to go delete it and it won't let me. I don't have that ability. So I started then creating one here. I'm going to jump into first. It's called this District AI Guidance and Policy. And I can change the name of it right here at the top just by clicking into that field and typing in whatever name that I want to give to it. And then the next thing that you're probably going to do once you get in here is this area on the left-hand side. This is where you're going to add your different types of sources. So if I had a new source that I wanted to add, I just go and I click this plus button. Then it says, what type of source are you going to add? I can upload a PDF. I can upload an audio file directly from my desktop of my computer if I wanted to, simply by dragging and dropping or choosing the file menu and go through and select it. And then it will add it to my list of sources that you see there behind it. It also, because it's a Google product, it is fully integrated with your Google Docs and Slides. So when I open up one of these, it'll take me kind of to my Google Drive and ask me which one do I want to add. I can add links directly to websites. I can put links to YouTube videos in there as well. Or if none of those are available for you, but I have a bunch of text that I've copied, I can just go into this one and I can choose copied text, and then I can paste whatever it is that I have in there. And then all of those sources are entered into this different area on the side. And if I click on any one of these particular sources, it's going to open up kind of like a card that gives me a summary of just that particular source. So you could see in a quick synopsis, what that particular source is about. I can choose on a different one, and it might give me a little bit more detail underneath here of that entire source, but then also summarizes it for me here in the top part. So I can save my time when I'm skimming through and I'm trying to think, oh yeah, I'm looking for this one particular source, but which one in my list is it? Having that summary would definitely help you to be able to use that, I think, even more effectively. Now, what can you do with these sources once you have them? And I'm going to go back here to this particular slide that I have here. One of the things, in addition to kind of giving you the guidance about the sources that you have, you can also use it to interact with the chatbot and to start finding ways to draw out some of the content from within that source that you'll want to focus on. Like, for example, here I have in this one just one source, and really that's all you need to get started using it. And so for this one source that I have here, which is actually a document with some running meeting notes for a group that I run of tech integrationists that are part of our cooperative. And it's a meeting agenda, and it has some other links and things in there. But let's say I want to find out from this document, I want you to pull out info related to AI from our meetings. And so basically it scans this whole document here, and it's pulling out the instances from within that document where AI was being discussed within there. And so you can see it talks about a presentation called Today's AI in Education. And then you'll notice after some of these, there's a little link here. And that is, it's linking back to a particular part from the document, like it's citing its source. Where is it pulling that content from? And if I had several sources here, it would link back to any of those different sources that I had related to it. Now, if this is something that I want to be able to save and come back to and utilize again in some manner, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Saved to Note. And it's going to create this particular note here for me and put it in there with a collection of other notes that maybe I want to add to it. So like maybe I want to say, find information about ISTE. Okay, which we went to an ISTE conference, and I have some stuff that summarized that too. And so you could see it pulls out that information, and I can save that to a separate note. Now with these notes, just like I did with the sources on the side, it can pull it out for me. I can even go through and I can edit that particular note, and it's going to change the name on that particular card. Okay, so that's kind of nice. Maybe I want to do something additional, like offer me some suggestions about what items should be on our next month's agenda. And I'll type in suggest some items for our November meeting. And, of course, after it takes a little bit of time to think about it, it's going to come back and it's going to give me some ideas here to bring up and talk about. So again, kind of a nice, neat feature here to be able to interact with even just this one source that I have. And so I can do the same thing, like answer these questions, suggest questions, answer questions. It helps me to organize a lot of that content back on that particular page. Okay, so say I'm about to start a new unit on ancient Rome, and I want to pull together some curriculum sources that I might want to use because I know my textbook is kind of awful and my school won't buy me new ones. And I just want to find some, content that is good, but I'm pulling it from online resources, right? So I'm going to create a new notebook here. And I've got some websites here that I'm just going to bounce over. And I'm going to take, this one here. It doesn't, for this example, don't worry about the quality of the sources that I'm using, right? If I were taking more time to vet these, I probably would. And I'm going to add this source here. Then I'm going to go back as that's loading up, and I'm going to find another one that I want to use, maybe from History Channel. And I'm going to copy that source here. And while it's adding that one, I'm going to drop another one in. See, and it's adding these different sources, just like it had from the other examples that I showed you as well. And maybe one more. Britannica sounds kind of smart. Let's take this one and let's put this in here as another website. So now if I had like a PDF of maybe a chapter on Rome that I wanted to add, I could definitely bring that in here as well. Sometimes you get these ones that come up with this little information dot. And what it's telling me here is that there are some sources that you're not going to be able to use because, like, for example, this one is behind a paywall. Other ones that I've come up with before that are like that, and maybe I'll search for one here, is finding videos from YouTube. While most of them work, if it is a video that doesn't have a transcript, it's not going to be able to add it. So I'm probably just going to go to this one right here. If I can't use it, I'm just going to delete it. But maybe I can find a YouTube one here really quick on the history of ancient Rome. Okay, and I'm just going to find one here. Graph here to see what it has, and if it will let me copy it or not. I'm interested to find out. And this one's a YouTube video, so I'm going to actually click there. And that one got added, so there's a transcript available for that one to be able to use. All right, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start to say, I need to create a new chapter of an open educational source on ancient Rome. Use these sources to help create that. And it's going to pull content from all three of these different sources, and it will link back in those citations that will take you back to those different parts. And of course, I asked it to probably do kind of a daunting task, so I'm sure that's why it's going to take a little while here.
I do like that you can have several different sources. So like being able to grab a YouTube video and add it to what you've got for like text sources as well is really cool.
Yeah, and it's really great how it's able to kind of like synthesize all of that stuff together, right? And you could see here it created this chapter. Now, I mean, if this is something that I'm going to actually do more with, I would probably spend a little bit more time making sure that the content here is valid, right? But now that I have some content here, it suggests some questions that I might want to ask next. Like if this is something I'm going to like, I might first just save this to a note, right? And then say, all right, I need a unit plan to teach this content. Now, what I also could have done is added another source over on the side and make it my standards that would relate to this particular unit, right? And so then I could ask a question about aligning it to my state standards that relate to this period of time. And so I can now ask this question And now it's going to create a unit plan here for me. I didn't specify how long to make it, so I'm interested to see. I was intentionally being kind of vague. But as we've talked about before with prompting AI, the more detail you can give it, the better results that you're going to get from it, right? Yeah, and so you could see here it arranged it into different activities with learning objectives and an overview. Focuses on culture and architecture, lots of things that I know that I definitely did teach when I had my world history kids back in the day. So really kind of a neat feature that's available here as well. Another thing that you're able to do here with this, in addition to kind of keeping it as kind of this curriculum organizational and lesson planning tool, I can also use this to now, hey, I'm coming up at the end of the unit. I want to prepare a study guide. Actually, I'm going to show you this one other part here first, because it might actually give me that. Notice I was interacting with this chatbot here. There's this tool over here that if I click this on the side of it called Notebook Guide, it's going to give me some of these things that I might want to create in addition to this. So that's why I was thinking of study guide here. And I'm going to come and I'm going to click study guide. And now it's going to create a study guide. This might be a great review tool for students before you get to the end of a unit, and to be able to share this study guide with all of the different content that you had in your sources over on the source left-hand panel over here.
I like how
Um,
they have like the different cards because it reminds me a little bit of like Padlet style, where you have, different items and things like that. Um, so
right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about it, but it does kind of have that Padlet kind of feel to it. So here it created a study guide for me, 10 questions, plus with optional essays. Here's a glossary of terms that students should know. Take these and make those into flashcards of some sort, would be another cool thing here. What I should probably do with some of these here too, maybe I want to go up here and change so that they're not all called new note, call it a study guide if that's what it is. Back here, though, I'm going to go back to this notebook guide. So there's these other things that you can do with it here as well. It gives you some other questions that maybe you want to consider here. But one other tool that I really like that is available here is called the audio overview. And so when you open up the notebook guide part that I'm in and go up here and click generate, now this is going to take a little while, and it says you don't need to stick around. So I'm actually going to skip out of here because this might take 3 minutes or so to create. So, but when it does, yeah, it is really cool. All right, because it takes a little while for it to process, I have another one that I have already created and got ready to go under a different notebook that I have. And so I'm going to select that one here, open up the notebook guide, and you'll see it created this audio overview for me. And it makes it like a podcast episode that summarizes and discusses everything that's in your source. And so I created this one here the other day from this particular document.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. You know how much we love diving into the nitty-gritty of educational technology? And today, we're taking a sneak peek at some meeting notes. Yeah, you heard that right. We're talking about prepping for that big tech integration meeting on September 26th.
That's right. We're going to break down some of the key points and discussions you can expect. So consider this your cheat sheet to really rock that meeting.
Look,
Right? And so it will kind of have these two people interacting, which are two AI voices, right? That's not David and I obviously having this conversation going back and forth, but it generated this thing all on its own. So kind of a really cool, neat feature that's available here as part of the notebook that you have.
I was gonna say too, it's like so obviously you can see with it the improvements too, right? Because it sounds very much like two actual hosts of a podcast that so the quality of it, granted, I know you mentioned like there's not a ton, there's like choices, but at this point anyway, but just the quality of the voice over is, I think, right along the lines of like what you would actually hear a human speaking. So
Right. It's really cool how natural they sound. But as we said, a little bit earlier, this is still a Google experiment, right? So there's not, you don't really get any choice of the voices that are there. It's one male, one female voice. Right now, it's only available in English, but
No, no Darth Vader yet, right?
no Darth Vader, no Yoda speaking in different dialects and things. Yeah, but like with other Google things, give them time, right? And we know that often Google adds more and more things to the features that they have that are already there. So really neat, really cool. Some of the things that you're able to do. Okay, the final thing that I want to show you are some kind of creative or practical and even practical purposes for using Notebook LM, either professionally, as yourself. And I've given you some ideas as far as a curriculum organizer and lesson planner, that sort of thing. But what about some ways that are maybe a little bit more creative ways to explore using it? So I had a day. This week where I wasn't feeling well and I stayed home and I wanted to play around with some of these different features. And so I was watching old reruns of The Office, which gave me some ideas. I wanted to take like a character from The Office and put them together with some characters of other sitcoms and just like to create something like brand new. So imagine, you have some sort of creative writing project and you want to allow the kids the opportunity to explore some different combinations of things. And so what I did is I said, okay, I want to put, Jim Halpert into a sitcom along with, say, like a George Costanza, maybe a Phil Dunphy from Modern Family, and a Phoebe from Friends, and like put them into together. And so what I first did is I added some sources. And so I just went to like Wikipedia and I found out information from Wikipedia and I copied and pasted them into these different notes that you'll see here on this slide. And really to do that, all I had to do is actually, because well, there's two different things you could do. You could paste them in as a source here, like I did from the copied text. You can also add your own notes here, and it will create a blank thing here, and you can copy and paste information into there as well, and that also works, right? And so I created these different pasted texts for the different characters I wanted to be in my new sitcom, and it is basically just like character information about them. So it's pulling from their character that they know here. And so I said, okay, now let's work to kind of like help develop a concept. How are these people, these four different people from four different fictional things, come together? And we started to explore some different ideas about where it could come from. And when we settled on that Phil is, expanding his real estate agency to New York, and then hey, that brought in a character like George Costanza from Seinfeld, who's going to be living in this building that Phil is going to buy, and really, it was kind of like a co-pilot situation where I'm offering suggestions. The AI of Notebook LM is offering suggestions. We settled on kind of a setting, and then we created three different scenes together for the pilot episode of it. And so if I open up like this one here, it gives you a little bit of about the setting and the backdrop, and then it gets into some dialogue here where we find that Phil and Jim and George like all start to get together, and we've got the start of something here. I'm not saying it's going to be winning any sort of like Emmy awards for best new sitcom or anything like that, but
This is
um,
our next YouTube channel. Sitcom This is what
yeah,
we're working on.
sitcom this. And we open it up to suggestions right from viewers like,
Yep.
hey, what characters should we put together and where should they be? Yeah. um, right, so just a very creative process. I could see this being done in several different ways other than I mean, take characters from novels for example, and have them be placed into a different setting, whether or not you're trying to app smash them together with other characters or not. That's entirely, I'm sure you guys could think of a lot of different directions to go with that. And another example here that I was going to point out is this one here, which is a meeting of the minds. I have to give a big shout out here to my high school world history teacher, Jay Burrows, who would do something similar to this meeting of the minds. He remembered this show that was probably on in the late 70s and early 80s, and it was called Meeting of the Minds. And he took this concept and he brought it into our classroom. And so you would have to take on a character from world history and actually pretend to be that person. Like I remember doing Teddy Roosevelt, right? And so I was asked to be in a conversation once upon a time with another student in the class who was asked to be Genghis Khan. And so we had to then bring these two characters together with a moderator. And that moderator then would have questions designed to kind of like facilitate a conversation between these two very different people. And so I thought, hey, this is kind of like a fun kind of concept here. Let's throw in some source content about Genghis Khan, about Teddy Roosevelt, and about the Meeting of the Minds show as a concept, right? So that the AI would be knowing what they're trying to bring these two people together with. Um, and so we created this one here where you could have this role playing scenario now take out, and it could help you write this kind of dialogue that would take place between these two different characters from world history. And it gives you some ideas about their similarities, about their differences. It pulls in context of things that both people are believed to have actually said. So it like gives some sort of actual factual content and context to what it is that they're saying. So really kind of neat. I didn't go through and say, like let's actually write the script because I was just trying to see if this idea would work. And it looks like it really, really does. So I think that would be another kind of fun creative use to it as well. Um, but yeah, you could see that I think there's a lot of different directions that you could go here. If you want to talk about having students start to collect together a portfolio of work that they have put together over the course of a semester or a year, you could see how creating a new notebook and just calling it portfolio and adding things in to that portfolio that come from a student's Google Docs or Google Slides definitely can kind of show you that learning progress that they're making through the year. Would be another great way to use it. And along kind of the same lines here, I started thinking about, having to renew my teaching license someday. And what about all of the different workshops that I attended that I got those certificates for my continuing education units, and I always lose track of where they go. This could be a great way for just to create a new notebook and then start attaching the different certificates and documents, as well as maybe the list of all of the different specialty areas that you've got to have. Like a reading one in there. You've got to have like a positive behavior intervention thing, right? And so you can ask it to create you a checklist of different areas that you still need to complete before the next time you renew your license, right? So I think, there's so many different uses that I could see as this particular product. So I got to admit, after just playing around with it for the couple of days that I have, I'm really excited about a lot of the uses for this as well.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting, like with this notebook LM, because we've talked about standards and helping teachers break down the standards, and like that's something that we've done with ChatGPT in some of our trainings and having it create a table and stuff like that. But so with this, the ability to grab those documents and then work with them, I think is really interesting too.
Right. And one of the things I don't think I mentioned is, in this list of different sources that are there, uh, like you see on this one here, if I don't want it to take from these different sources, I can just deselect them. And it's going to only pull from the ones that are selected at one time. So that's, kind of neat too, to have that flexibility with it.
Yeah. I like also the idea of gathering some different documents. Like if you know a couple schools, we've been talking about AI guidance, for example, but this doesn't have to just apply there. Could be like any policy type things. If you say a superintendent comes across a couple schools that are doing some really interesting things in terms of policy or ideas for students, like you could put them in here and then start to work up your own through the use of those resources and having it kind of break them break down the best pieces of each. So.
Right. Yeah, really good point. And I know you and I have talked about this the other day a little bit too, but one of the things that you can do with this also is it could be a virtual meeting note taker as well. Um, if you record your meet or your meeting, your virtual meeting, and you have the transcript of it, you can take that transcript then from your meeting and drop it into NotebookLM, right? And it will basically do some of those same things of summarizing. You could ask it to create more of an action plan, and highlight some of the main discussion points. So that's entirely a possibility with this as well. It might not be. It might involve a couple more steps than say like a product like Otter. But if you ran out of your minutes in Otter, you could probably use this and make it function in the same way, right?
Yep.
Yeah. A couple other things just to point out here. There is a source limit on each notebook that you open, and it's 50 sources. So if you're running over 50, more power to you. And I think it's something like 25 million words that you're able to bring into it as well. So if you're maxing out your 25 million words, okay.
Right.
Get a different account, I guess, and start second
That's a
25
lot.
million on that one.
Yeah, that's a lot. I could see it though, like maybe if there's, if you're looking at like legal documents or something like that, I mean, it could be a lot.
That could be a lot. If you're trying to write your 10 volume, epic novel series, maybe it's a
Right.
lot.
All right. Thanks for joining Integrate This. Hopefully you can take some great things and ideas from Jeremy with NotebookLM. I think it's a really well-organized system, and I think a lot of people will be using it for a variety of reasons. But from the education perspective, I think that administrators and teachers can get a lot of use out of it and organize different documents. And I know Jeremy and I have talked about the AI guidance, and that's even useful for us. So thanks, Jeremy, for sharing that, and we will catch you guys on the next episode.